You hear it every time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Night Chats with Dr. Karen Love. Friday Night Chats is brought to you by the Love Family Christian Foundation. Tonight, I am pleased to welcome to the chat room Dr. Teri Stein Merrill. Dr. Stein Merrill is the program chair for both Applied Psychology and Human Science Department in the Division of Professional Studies at Judson University. She attained both her Masters and Doctorate degree from Mississippi State University, Starkville, Mississippi. She continued her studies as specialist from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., followed by her postgraduate work from California State University, Fresno. She has published, I got it right, over 140 fitness videos. How impressive. Dr. Stein Merrill's expertise is in organizational leadership, executive coaching, mentoring, and teaching, which spans the globe. She views diversity from a global perspective. She lives by the mantra, diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. Dr. Stein Merrill conducted research in China at the SIAS International University and presented at the 9th Annual Women Leadership Symposium in China. She hosted students from the Dominican Republic, Mexico, South Korea, China, and Chicago South Side. Tonight's topic is Future CEOs, let's embrace cultural competencies and manage emotional and physical self-care through faith. Welcome, Dr. Stein Merrill.
Thank you. Wow. Well, hello, everybody. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here to speak to you and to learn from you and to share. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation, and Dr. Love just shared with me tonight. Oh, you know, we kind of tired of those. So after tonight, I promise you, we'll stop with all of those PowerPoint presentations. So she's kind of going backwards. You'll see the whole thing, and we'll start right here. So
Yes.
there we go. All righty. Our focus tonight, as you can see, I'm a little bit all over the map because diversity is all over the map. But I'm hoping to share some specific strategies related to cultural experiences, primarily with the my Asian population, in addition to looking at how all of this ties into, from a psychological perspective, our own self-care. And needless to say, all of it is based in faith. So let's begin. Slide number 1. All righty, the journey. I'm calling this a journey because many things in life starts with others. And so the people in my life, as spoken by Colin Powell, those are the people that make my story. They really are. They've made me who I am today. So let me just share 5 minutes of who these individuals are. It starts with my grandmama. She lived to see 101. Yeah, 101. She would have been 108 if she were alive today. How cool is that? Well, my grandmother was a self-made woman, self-educated. She was raised by a white family. Yes, she was adopted officially by white parents. And this was many, many moons ago. And one of the things that they truly instilled in her was the importance of hard work. It was so interesting too, because she lived with them till she was about 18 or so. Now remember, this was the South many years ago. She always had to enter through the back. Yes, even as their child. So I just thought that was amazing. She had 3 jobs when she became this quote unquote adult. And if you're familiar with the book, it's called Green Book. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but in the Green Book, it was really a way of identifying places to stay and to eat if you were traveling or if you lived, especially in the South. And so my grandmama, bless her heart, it was known as Mabel's Place because Mabel had an 8-room hotel just for traveling folks, especially those who were truckers. So they would come and stay at Mabel's house, have a warm meal, and head on their way for $5 a night. After the weekend, during the weekend, her business became a beautician. So she spent countless hours making women beautiful, and that was what she did. And after that, she opened up her cafe. Yep, everybody would go to Mabel's Cafe. So as you can see, entrepreneurship just kind of ran in her blood. Well, moving a little faster here, my mother was born, only child, and she was a go-getter as well. My mother, bless her heart, she started college, started now at age 14, graduated age 19. She was a business major, believe it or not. After graduating, she taught in school during the day and also GED, getting your GED equivalency of high school in the evening. And she did this for 42 wonderful years. She was the first to teach at a segregated white school in Mississippi. They wanted to kind of check things out, if you know what I mean. So she was one of the first to do that. Thank goodness she was successful in those endeavors. My dad, pretty quickly, he started in the Marines, and from the Marines, he received the funds so he could go on to college. Met my beautiful mother. What can I say? They fell in love and brought to this world 2 daughters. Well, my dad is so unique. I have to share this story because it's near and dear. My dad, bless his heart, he he taught biology and science. That was his major. And interestingly enough, every morning at 6:30, he would bring to my mom and my sister to the bed a full breakfast. Now in the South, a full breakfast consists of grits, sausage, biscuit, canned biscuits, didn't have time to make homemade biscuits, and what else? Eggs. He did it every morning. Could you believe that? Then he would drive the bus, pick up all of the students, take them to the school, teach science and biology, and then he would flip the script and become a coach. He was the coach for basketball, football, and baseball. What can I say? Just a tremendous story. Well, interestingly enough, once we integrated, my dad's story changed a little bit in terms of he was first kind of like the what did he call it? The big fish in a little pond. Well, actually, he became more like the water boy instead of the head coach of many of the activities. That set in a little bit of a depression for him. It was a little bit of a dark time for us. And thank goodness for the grace of God, things did change. Once his grandkids came on board, he really kind of became a little bit more vital again. So things happen. That's just a little bit of parentally who I am and what makes me who I am. And of course, the community of faith. I have to share a little bit of that because it is really eclectic. And faith in general, people say you were born out of the cradle. That was probably me. I started off at the United Methodist Church. And basically that was because my dad taught Sunday school. So my sister and I would go to Sunday school and be at church for Sunday school. Then we would go from there to our church. Then over to Second Baptist. That's where my mom went to church. It was like literally right across the street. I actually thought it was Second Baptist because that was the second church that we would go to on a Sunday. It's a long story. Anyway, so we would go there. Then we would go back over to our youth fellowship and spend the rest of the evening with my girlfriend at her sanctified church. Now, how cool is that? It was a community of faith. Really wonderful. There is probably I'm not surprised that I ended up at Judson because of my faith and just the ability to want to work hard and that to be a part of my life. But I did start with corporation with Motorola, and that was very interesting too, because through that, I actually met people through the Salvation Army, did some presentations, and they said, I think you would like to teach over at Judson. And what can I say? They were right. I've been there, 25 plus years now. So it was really a great transition. Next slide. I do believe, and you guys echoed this a little bit later, there is a reason for all of our seasons. What you have here is just a hodgepodge of some of the wonderful people that have influenced me probably way more than I have influenced them. A big part of my job at Judson was 9 months in the classroom, 3 months actually spending time in corporations consulting other people. And through my consulting of Asian women, I was brought in to work specifically with them, looking at some cultural ways that we actually lead, and which is totally different than their leadership style. So that led, of course, one thing led to the other. And it was like, well, I know someone who's looking for a place to stay. They're doing their internship down at Gail Borton. Do you know of someone? Well, I live like 2 minutes from Gail Borton. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So one thing led to another. And what can I say? It's just been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to have people from all walks of life to come in during spring breaks, all types of different spring breaks, summer, and you'll see later on even a 4-year stint of just sharing and learning from them. All righty, next slide. How are we doing with time? I can't say enough about the next little slide that you see, because a big part of my research in China led me to become a little bit more curious about students who wanted to come to the United States and study. And so when I was approached by some of my Asian friends to possibly look at hosting someone, becoming a host parent, I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I should try that. So the person you see featured here, his name is Holland Liu from China. And he basically stayed with me and my family from age 14 to age 19. And he was attending Elgin Academy, right up the street from me. Everything is kind of close by. And I have so many wonderful stories that I could share about Howland, but I think the one that really kind of brings us to this whole cultural piece is a big part of what we tried to do as a family is to integrate his life, things that he was used to doing with the things that we would do. For example, we would always eat with, we call them chopsticks. They call them kuatses in China. That was just a big part of what we did. I have all kinds of things that, artifacts and various things in the house that represents much of not only Howland's life, but my life as well. And so just to tell you this quick story, and I'll show you like a 30-second video of his graduation. It's not uncommon if you come to my house, you're gonna see all kinds of things related to faith. And what we would always do is sit down at a family every day. And I would pray for Howland, pray for my son, pray for everybody. And then we would eat. Well, one day I'm really rushing because, at 6 o'clock I had to teach a class over at Judson. So I'm just rushing around, trying to get the table set and everything. And so everything was sitting there, and I looked up and Howland wasn't eating. I'm like, is he sick? What's wrong? So I looked over, I'm like, Howland? He looks at me, he goes, you forgot to say grace. Isn't that just a precious thing? And a big takeaway from that, guys, is, some of those things that sometimes maybe we don't even know that we are doing can have a lasting impact. So I was just so pleased that he wanted to, and he had been reading, and I'm like, God, you are so good. You're so merciful. So thank you for that. So what you're going to see now is just a little bit of his graduation, where his grandparents was a big part of nurturing students from Asia, students in China. They flew over for the graduation. Howland graduated top of his class. I love this first. In taking the SAT, I think most of you know, it's like a score from 0 to 800. Well, on the English, the language part, Howland scored like 780 out of 800. Yeah, on the math, he scored a perfect 800. This was taking the SAT for the first time. Is that crazy or what? So in tears, it was a great day. You can shoot it, Karen. if you get a chance, become a host parent. It's a blessing. It truly is. Well, as we go to the next slide, and just sharing various aspects of what it means to work internationally with students. Before we just show you this clip, I did have an opportunity to go to SIAS University, and that's located about south of Beijing. It's in a really rural area. This is a wonderful school. It houses, I think it's like over 300 acres. And I get a chance to speak. We looked at various SMART goals and things related to just leadership and developing your career plan. I also had an opportunity to interview over 100 students. Now, this place comprises of 30,000, and the workshop that I was a part of was actually about 6,000 in terms of those participated. So each one of the breakout sessions, about 200 people. It was fantastic. I could go on and on. But one of the things that was really kind of cool is the opportunity to mentor other people. And right now I am in the midst of mentoring. And what you're going to see here about last week, they started their Happy New Year celebration. So I decided to do a video to say Happy New Year to the student that I'm currently mentoring. Her name is Wong, and they actually use American names. I think they do that so just to make us feel comfortable. Her American name is Maggie. So on this video, you'll see me attempting to speak Chinese. And when I sent her that, it was like within a day, she actually returned my hello. So Karen, go ahead and show the video.
你好，你好王，你好吗 ？And 新年快乐。
Hello, Terry. Happy New Year. I'm very lucky to meet you in the last year, and I wish you happiness, health, and good luck in the coming year. I'm very glad to receive your New Year wishes. Your Chinese is silent. Look forward to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. That was so funny. If you noticed toward the end, thank goodness for meta communications, because she said my English is silent. I think she meant sensational. I'm not sure, but the thumbs up meant that, you know, I'm working on it. I thought that was so cute. We video chat at least twice a week. And it was really interesting because when we first started talking, career-wise, she had decided to major in accounting. And I asked her why. And she said because that's what her parents thought would be a good approach for her to get a job after she graduated. So we kind of talked about that and began to figure out that, believe it or not, her passion is truly in teaching. So let's keep our fingers crossed. She's changing her major to something that she really enjoys doing versus something that perhaps she felt mandated to do. So a lot of interesting stories like that. I'm just so happy to be a part of. Hopefully they're transitioning into the really wonderful kinds of things that they really want to do. All righty, Karen. Next slide, keep going.
你好，
All righty. Well, I had planned to have you guys practice. Let me tell you what's going on here really quickly. The World Academy, that's the name of the organization that I actually had a chance to be a part of, the international mentoring. Well, right now, the students are on their break. They actually get a 2-month break. And one of the issues that's a concern to the university, sometimes, especially freshmen, like Maggie is a freshman, a lot of times they don't come back, or, you know, things happen in 2 months and for whatever reason, they just don't want to return. And so they were looking for different things so they can kind of become a little bit active. They can do things maybe to engage a little bit more with their moms. Their relationship with their moms is very interesting. That would be a whole nother class if I had a chance to teach it. So I was approached by their leader, their CEO, and to put together some type of video. Now, in this video, it's more of an integration of teaching the mom some words in English, but also, most importantly, giving the mom and the daughter, and they call mom mama, giving the mom and the daughter somewhat of a meaningful relationship, some of the things that they could do together during the spring break. I thought about it, I prayed over it in one mindset, have everybody to get up at this point, pull your chairs out and join me with this little 3-minute exercise. But you know what? Do it if you want. If not, listen carefully and see if you can pick up. This is a teachable moment. Pick up some of the words that I was sharing with Maggie's or one's mama. All righty.
Ni hao to the World Academy at SIAS University in China. My name is Teri. I am one of the mentors at the Academy. And your leader, Jerry, asked me to share with you an exercise that you can do.
Gary?
Yep.
So I think we lost some connection here. Hold on.
Okay.
With your mama
Oh, here we go.
while you are on break. So let's begin. First, it is very important to start your exercise out with a good stretch. Stretching out the body is so important to your exercise success. When you stretch, you're telling your body to get ready. Also, when you stretch, it helps to prevent injuries. So always stretch before as well as at the end of your exercise time. So today we will be practicing stepping. Yes.
I'm not sure what's happening here.
Yeah, like it's freezing.
Yeah.
Bear with us, guys.
第一步, stepping, step, step. We want to step 第一步 in place for about 15 minutes. Just step. Yes, very high. You can do this. Come on, Mama. Yes. Exercising is very helpful. It makes us strong, gives us energy, so we can do our class work very well. So about 15 minutes, more if you can, each day. Okay, now, what you want to also do is drink water. Yes, water, shit, is so important when you exercise. Water gives you energy. Yes, so drink water. Hin ho. Very good. Ready? Let's try to step again. You ready? Let's go. Woo! Step. Yes. 第一步. Pick it up. Step. 第一步. Yes. You can do this. Step. 第一步. Yes. Bring it high. Yes. 15 minutes. You can do it. Yes. Very good. 谢谢. Thank you for joining me today. Enjoy your visit with your mom. Alrighty? And I look forward to seeing you very soon when you're back at school at SIAS. Take care.
It's a great video.
All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience on that one.
That's a great
You know,
video.
yeah, well, technology is great when it works, and we're pleased to have it. I do want to spend about 5 or 6 minutes with you, sharing just some basic ways of managing your emotions, managing our stressors that we have. And this is the next slide, Karen, so you can pass it on.
Ni hao.
Flip, flip, flip. Yep, here we go. And what I want to do is just give some basic quick examples when we look through each one of challenges that we have here, especially as they relate to Galatians 5, verses 22 to 23. And the first one talks about learning from your challenges. In anything that we do, especially looking at different cultural differences, you're going to have some challenges, guys. It's just life. And I think back to some of my favorite ones. I'll never forget at Jutsu when someone asked me, they know I was from the South and I was getting ready to go home, and they go, "Oh yeah, I know you can't wait to go home and get some of that fried chicken." And I'm like, okay. All I know. And I'll never forget one of my faculty evaluations when I was teaching out at Fresno at Cal State. And the class was great. They loved the content, but they just could not tolerate my Southern accent. Yeah. So I really took some of the wise words from Dr. King, who said, "I have decided to stick to love, stick with love in terms of whatever those challenges are, to respond as I would in my Christ-like mannerisms, or how would Jesus approach something like that?" I'm not saying it's easy, but that helps us. It's not the event as much as how we respond to the event. Another one is to never give up. I think sometimes it's so easy to just throw in the towel and I'll just stay in my bubble. But I do feel that where there is a will, there's a way. My perfect example with this was about a year ago when we first heard of this whole thing about COVID. And it's, really how it started in China and blah, blah, blah. I was devastated because I met quite a few. There are at least 44 million Christians in China. And I think I met at least 20 or 30 or even more at SIAS. And so I was just a little devastated there, a little down on just thinking in general. And I'll never forget, I got an email from one of my students in China. And the email was so cute. She said, hello, Professor. I don't know what Karen is doing now, so just listen to me. But okay, here we go. She goes, she said, "Hello, I'm so worried about you. Do you need any mask? Do you need anything? I will send you." I looked up 2 weeks later. I have you not. I brought a picture of it here. I don't know if you can see me on the screen, but it's okay. But she sent like 100 packages of the mask. Isn't that a blessing? And I will be praying for you. I'm like, oh my God, God is so good. He just hangs in there with us. Those relationships will last forever. So that was just so cool. Admitting what we do not know and being able to say, I'm sorry. I'll never forget when I was in school, graduate school, and at George Washington University. And I don't know how much you know about that university other than Jackie Onasser attended there. And actually, I was in class when Ronald Reagan was admitted when he got shot. Okay, I'm dating myself, but I was in class then. It was a cultural diversity class. And I'll never forget, the teacher brought this new instrument out for us to take. It was called the Chitlin's test. Don't know if you ever heard of that one before. The Chitlin's test. And I'm like, oh, okay, I do know. And he goes, anybody know what a chitlin is? So I probably was the only one to raise my hand because I knew what it was. Well, long story short, guys, I failed that test miserably. I truly did. And that was okay. And sometimes I think because we represent a certain ethnic group, we feel that we're just supposed to know everything about it, and we don't, guys. So I was like embarrassed, but okay, let me learn a little bit about the chitlins. Lesson learned. I think it's important to learn from the best and to pay it forward. Surround yourself around people who believe in our faith. And I can't say enough for my love for my Christian friends at Judson, as well as the Loves and all of you who are on this program tonight. It's so important to be able to do that and to pay it forward. And then last but not least, God didn't intend for us to do this alone. Get a mentor, get someone who can help keep you accountable. That's what life is about as well. So I'm going to just share one more slide, and I want to open it up because I know we might be running a little late. I got a few more minutes to go. Yeah, but the next slide is kind of a funny one, but I want to show it anyway. This is one of my mentors.
All right, I'm getting
All
everybody
right.
ready.
Woo! All right. Now, I took this picture a week ago. Yeah, guys, I look at diversity in many ways. Sometimes I think because we get older, 60 plus, you can't be in shape. That's not true. You can. I get help every morning. I work out with my mentor. I put this verse down on purpose here, and it talks about where there is no guidance, we will fail. We really will. But when you do depend on others, positive others, those who can give you good advice, many advisors, we will succeed. And I mean that not just for exercising, but teaching, mentoring, everything that we do. Now, just to take this a step further, my mentor, he's in his mid 30s. Yeah, he's also a civil rights attorney. Yeah, and the last but not least, this is my oldest son. So how cool is that? Yeah. All righty. Next slide. Okay. As we go into our Q&A time, I want to ask you to think about the 3 different questions that we have here. You may have questions for me, but if you don't, feel free to kind of chat. And I really want to bring this back around to you in terms of looking at diversity as it relates to what do you see God doing through you this coming year? Okay, how are we seeing God work through us? You know, we're supposed to kind of represent Christ-like behaviors and things that we do. Have you set goals in terms of what that would look like for 2021? Number 2, what's God doing to you in 2021? We've been through a very interesting 2020, haven't we, guys? We really have. What is God doing to you? How has He spoke to you from last year? What were some of those things in terms of relationship building? Maybe some of the assumptions that were made, or just curious. Then, last but not least, what is God doing for you? He has been so merciful, so great. So, I mean, I'm just filled with gratitude for the many different things that He's done for me. So I would love to just open it up. You may have specific questions. And if not, I would love to hear from anyone who wants to talk about who you are as it relates to your cultural experiences and your relationship with our Father, Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Do you want me to keep the questions up, Terry, or can I
Um,
enlarge this so that we can see you?
Yeah, let's see me and everybody else now. We can always, I think you can downsize that one. Yeah,
Yes.
I see some
All right.
people.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it together.
You're doing wonderful. Yeah,
The engineer tonight. Okay, hold on 1 second and I'll get everybody up.
Yep.
Yeah, it should be right here. Okay, Terry, I just see you.
Did we lose everybody?
Okay. No.
You guys there?
Terry, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Curtis.
I do have a question for you before you open it up to others.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about the Chitin test?
Yeah.
A little bit about the Chitin circuit.
There is actually a test. And now this was like 30 or 40 years ago, so I don't think that test is still out there. But they call it the Chitin test, but they talked about just Southern assumptions, really, and you know, things about us that I didn't know, Curtis. They named it the Chitlin test, but it wasn't really just about chitlins themselves, but it was things that are things like have you heard of what do they call it? I can't even think of it. There's a name when we're constantly late. CP time. Heard of that one?
Mm-hmm.
So they would have examples of things like that, and I'm like, what is CP time? I know. I was embarrassed, actually. I just thought maybe I should have known, and I didn't.
Well, I do know about the Chitin test, and actually, Dr. Love, Dr. Michael Love, I know he knows about the Chitin circuit
Oh, yeah.
because it would be similar to, let's say, the when you talked about the Green Book.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I was curious about that. So that's
You-
interesting. The
You're
Chitin
taking us back, Terry.
I know. Going way back, huh?
thing is that- and just so that everyone knows, I am not a fan of chitlins. Had them when I found out where they were from.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have a question, Dr. Stein. You talk a lot about your family
Yeah.
and your roots. And one thing I noticed about in our history is that when in our historical roots, many of our family members have multiple disciplines, right? They're philosophers, they're entrepreneurs, right? They're mathematicians. And so have we lost that in our culture?
Oh, wow. And I love others to speak to that one. That's a very interesting question. I know for me, a big part of that, I've never had just one job. And I shouldn't say that too loud or Justin, but I've always, I've always had my teaching and I had my consulting, and I was always just doing things extra. And I don't know if I see that. I see that in my oldest son. He does his law profession, but he also teaches on the side. He's a trainer. He does yoga. I see that in him, but in my youngest, I don't. He's like, I'm here, Mom, and I'm doing absolutely nothing. So I'm like, you what?
It's generational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely generational. Yeah, absolutely. So now Mabel's house, was that
Yes.
your mother's, that was your grandmother's house? She owned
That-
that, or
That was my grandmother's boarding house. Yes, ma'am.
boarding house? See?
It was like a
I love that.
hotel. And
I
even
love
after we got permission to go to hotels, many of her people would still come back to her because, it's just nothing like hanging around Mom Mabel. She cooked you a nice meal and she had conversation for everybody. It was so cool. Yep.
I love the sense of community growing up because it takes a village. It really did take a village. And I so value that, in the past because it made me who I am today. But today is a little bit different in raising kids. We want to reach in and we have different cultural perspectives and everything like that, but it's a little bit different. But you kind of see from that perspective that it does take a village to raise a child. It really does. I'm not saying it does take the government. It does take a village. It takes that neighbor next door who would tell your mom that, you misbehaved or didn't come home and
Mm-hmm.
you had a punishment waiting for you as well as your mom.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah, I agree totally. I didn't tell you guys one of the stories. It was really interesting when I was in China with, as you know, that being a communistic society in general. So they had basically two rules for us. And one was to not talk politics and not talk religion. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be challenging for me. So I'm like, all righty, I'll do what you say. And well, when I got there, the students all wanted to chat via like Facebook. Everybody has their little way of chatting. And so they wanted me to be able to chat with them. They have it, it's called WeChat. It's very similar to our Facebook here in the United States. So I'm like, all righty, I don't know, go ahead and find the app. I gave them my cell phone. I'm like, find the app and you can just put it on there for me and I'll be okay with that. So one of my little students got it and he was just playing around on my phone and he saw my apps on there. And I had an app that said the Bible. He looked at it and he looked at me and he goes, oh, so you're a Christian? And I said, yeah, I'm a Christian. He goes, whispering, me too. Wasn't that something? Well, needless to say, after that, every Christian at SIAS University, whoo, they were there, and they had like a private place where all Christians would go to worship and pray together. It was just talking about, that whole thing of family. And I'm like, thank you, God. I mean, it's just everywhere, guys. It was so wonderful to have that sense of community in China as well, and to be able to communicate that love, and to know that there are Christians there as well.
What
So,
inspired you to, number one, study abroad? Number two, what inspired you to start this mentorship with international students?
yeah, well, it was when I was first asked to consult with the Asian individual who was actually in a leadership role here in the United States. She was having a difficult time because she would tend to be a little bit more too passive aggressive with how she was managing her team. So I was brought in to kind of role play, talk through some different things that she needed to do to be successful as a leader here in the United States. So because of that, I just got really curious, like, wow, what are some things that they're doing in China? And I felt to better serve the Asian community here, it would be helpful to go abroad and learn what was going on there. And so that kind of led to that whole piece. I can't say enough for networking, guys, because I learned of the opportunity at SIAS through one of my students who was from Judson. Believe it or not, Dr. Love, she was in the MAOL program of all programs. Yeah.
Mention names, yeah.
Well, this was years ago. She was in that program. It was real interesting. She came to stay with me, and she loved the Lord. We worshiped together, and she was telling me about SIAS. One thing led to the other. I asked to do some research from our FEC, Faculty Evaluation Committee at Judson, and they said, yeah, got the SERVAC going on to help me finance going over there, and one thing led to another. Yeah, it was quite interesting, a lot of fun. And okay, guys, I'm waiting for you guys to answer some of those questions. We have a few minutes. How is God working with you now that we are in the midst of passing from 2020 to 2021? Sarah, you still online? You want to talk? Dr. Capella?
I am. I was just enjoying the conversation.
I'm glad you're here. Yes, Sarah's one of our up and coming stars, guys. If you haven't met her in the School of Education, and I had the opportunity to observe her as a teacher as she's going through her evaluation. So I just decided to invite her because, hey, she's one of my little girls now. So I'm glad that you showed up.
No, thank you for inviting me. And whenever you were talking about your mentors, I was thinking of you.
There you go.
My new mentors.
Yes. So we're glad you're here. Yeah, thank you. Jennifer, thoughts? I see you. Oh.
You're muted, Jennifer.
Yeah, I have two monitors, so I had to get my cursor over to the side. So. No, I think I'm like Sarah. I think I'm just enjoying the conversation, and it's in speaking of mentors, it's interesting my journey at Judson as well, and being able to work with those who were also mentors to me. So it's kind of neat to come full circle to that. And so just like you and others, Teri, that have put into my life and made me the academician that I am, and being able to serve our students. I just appreciate it, and I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
By the way, that little soft voice you use as you're exercising, don't be fooled by that voice.
That's
For those exercises, you held your knee up, and I said, look at that balance and sustainability. No.
Well, that's a part of it too. It's so interesting because in working with my Asian constituents, if you will, basically they have two mindsets: study and work hard and study. And so you can't even approach something like exercising as fun. And I had to kind of remember that when I'm working with them, I have to talk about the physiological effects and why, if you're exercising, if you're eating correctly, how that will help you to maintain energy so you can study. And it was so interesting because they want to know, well, what are American students like? how often do they study? I was kind of chuckle. I have to be careful when I talk. I was like, okay, well, I do believe that we look at balance a little bit differently. So that was one of those kind of cultural things that I had to kind of be careful with, and even approaching the whole thing of exercising, not seeing it as much as fun, but as a way of helping them to maintain energy to study and to stay focused. So yeah, you guys look me up. Most of you know that I'm there. It's what is it? Get Fit with Dr. Teri. If you Google that, you're going to find all kinds of YouTubes. And I've been trying to kind of put into that whole emotional piece as it relates to helping you to de-stress. And so, hey, subscribe, give me a like. I love to see you. Guys, I don't mean to leave you out, poor things. Please talk to me. We have about 10 minutes. Say something.
Hi, Dr. Teri. It's Kim Johnson. How are you?
Good.
I was so pleased with your presentation. I'm like, where do we even begin? Because there are so many facets to you that I learned tonight that they were just pleasant surprises, right? To get to see you in this different light. I do appreciate the importance that you placed on being a triune being, the spirit, the soul, and the body. And I think that is just so important to us as Christians, as women, as people of color. Exercise, diet is so important. Dr. Karen and I confess to each other often when we take trips to Culver's, and knowing the importance of keeping our body in good physical shape. And I just have to say that you are #goals.
What's that?
Because you and your son with your muscles and you all flexing, I mean, it's just inspiration and it's just goals. Thank you so much for being part of this series and sharing tonight and opening up to us, because you are such a gift. And I love your accent.
I was serious about that. I was out at Cal State, and I was the new doctorate at the time, just real excited about going, and oh man, I just, you know how I feel when you first get your degree. And so I was out there teaching, and it was actually a graduate class. I think it was one of the career development classes. I don't even remember the class. And you know how you just think you're doing really well. And I got the evals back. I was like, oh my goodness. It was interesting too, because they were like, no, the content, she knew the content. She was engaging, blah, blah, blah. But I tell you, I just couldn't get beyond that Southern accent. And I'm like, I have to kind of think, do I need to go back and get some training so I could change my Southern accent? That was my first thought. And then, God always kicks in when you need him. It's like, you know what? You'll be you, and be prayerful that there will be enough people out there who will appreciate that Southern voice. So I just kept the Southern voice, and it all worked out. So again, you guys, Kim, my young ones, quite a few of you out there, you're gonna be challenged. You will be. And a big part of that, you have lots of moms and dads. Everybody on this channel tonight, we are here for you. Please know that. And it's just a blessing to be a part of your lives. Don't ever feel like there's something that you need to know that doesn't make sense, because you see, we go way back, so we know a little bit about everything. So thank you, Miss Kim, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Everyone,
Thank you, Dr. Stein.
While they're crafting their questions, one quote that you had was, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Could you expand on that a bit?
Oh, wow. Okay. I knew she was going to hit me up with that one. You know what I found in just working with people in general, everybody has a story, number one. And in order to develop that relationship with them, it's not all of what they can learn from us, but it's the give and take. And so you think about it when you go to a dance. I always think about going to a dance or even learning a new dance. You go in and there's protocol. There are the rules. And so you go, okay, I'll learn my rules. And then a lot of times you get a chance to improvise. Okay, and that's just kind of bringing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so I've learned to kind of to do that, even in my relationship in my mentoring. And I gave the example of when you come to my home, I've been eating with chopsticks, quadsies, that's what they call quadsies, for over 10 years now. And I could have stopped, but it was so interesting because it slowed me down, because it is a technique. So it slowed me down. So I'm like, okay, so when you come to my house, you have a choice. You can eat with your fork and your knife, or you can use your chopsticks. But I would do things like that. I would have all kinds of just different things. Even when I work with my students from the Dominican Republic, when they come over, we do all kinds of things. We bring to the party what we know, but we also add in and make sure that everybody feels welcome. So that's what it means to kind of know the dance, but being willing to kind of share a different step here and there, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any takeaways? Anybody want to share one thing that you think you're going to be working on or being prayerful for as we kind of close our time out? Anybody?
Dr. Stein, I do have one thing that I wanted to mention, and I want to mention to you publicly. I have a deep appreciation about you and almost everything that you do, because you have a joy that you bring to the table. You have a contagious laughter. You have peace that you bring. And what you do is you remind us of what it's like to be a child in the Lord, expecting to sharing that peace and joy. Every committee that I've served on with you and that I've wanted to serve on with you is because of that joy. It's because of that laughter that you bring. We deal with some serious issues at Judson University and many things, but you make it delightful to deal with those tough things. So I want to tell you, I appreciate that. And in this presentation tonight, your joy came out.
Did it?
Your love came out. So thank you for allowing God to use you the way you are, because you are unique in everything that you do. So that's my takeaway.
That's a good takeaway, Dr. Curtis. And thank you, Dr. Love. First I was fighting this. I didn't want to do it. I'm like, okay. And I'm glad I did, because it brought back such fun memories of my family, you know what I mean? And stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's making me recall all this good stuff. So I encourage all of you to do this. Just take a walk down memory lane, and you'll just see so many wonderful things that have really created who you are today. So thank you, Dr. Love.
Amen. You're welcome. So finally, I asked her, do I have to wait until Jesus come knocking before she accepts my invitation? So finally, she said yes. Dr. Stein, Maurice, I think he's still on the line. Maurice is.
I thought I saw him.
Is he still here? So he's seeking graduate opportunities, doctoral opportunities, looking at some schools. So what lessons or what words of encouragement and wisdom could you impart on him?
Okay. Is Maurice, can he kind of talk
Maurice,
more?
I'm here. Can you hear me or see me? I don't know.
I don't know if I can. Oh, there you are.
There you are.
Thank you. I appreciate anything you have to offer. So
you're thinking graduate school?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. All right. And what's your passion? What do you enjoy doing?
My passion is in helping people. Wherever God sees fit, that's what I enjoy doing. Like, even if I didn't see it coming, if he places me there, I'm gonna do it. So
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's probably not something that we can resolve in like 3 or 4 minutes, but I encourage you, if you haven't, really take advantage of our Student Success Center. I think sometimes we forget that it's for us too. It's not just for the students, but they have all kinds of just materials to kind of help you at least get a sense of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I know for me, graduate school was a sense of I had to look at 2 things, financial. So I was looking at a school that perhaps I could also, at Mississippi State, I was assistant director of career services while I was pursuing my doctorate in counseling psychology. So that worked, in other words, I could go to school and then go to work in the same place. So I was looking for those kinds of things. So a big part of that will be you in terms of what you can actually feasibly do. So, think about that. I would say we could have this conversation a little bit later offline where I can look at your resume, look at where you've been and perhaps where you want to go. And then we can make some decisions that's a little bit more strategically based on other things that would be helpful. But we're happy you were there, Justin. You better not go nowhere after this conversation. I'm just saying.
We want to tell the truth, shame the devil. No. Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Maurice has a lot of experience in public policy. I mean,
Wow.
Yes. Oh, he's brilliant. Let me just say, he is. So.
Dr. Love, you're too kind. Too kind.
No,
So,
Like
say that after I
don't
deliver
say-
that sweet potato pie to you.
we don't say that enough to each other. We really don't. And we need to do it. You guys need to hear how wonderful you are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes, other life lessons.
I just wanted to say, Dr. Stein, thank you so much for your 3 questions and the sub-questions that you left us with. I took a screenshot of the PowerPoint and then saved it as a Word document. So I'm going to print those out and just keep those probably on the refrigerator and reflect on those. And then I was actually at class tomorrow. I was thinking about sharing some of those, sharing those questions with my students as well.
Awesome.
As
Yeah.
sort of the, like New Year's resolutions have kind of worn off at this point of the year.
Oh, yeah.
To revisit and reflect on those purposes.
That is awesome. And if you guys, again, I should say, raise your hands if you don't have someone that's mentoring you, take us up on it. It's nothing like having that. A mentor is a great person. They're not like your mom. They're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. Okay? Out of love, and they will always find a Christ-like manner, way of sharing it with you. So get a mentor. I have like 5 or 6. You can get as many as you want, but get someone, get that support. It's very important. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Additional comments.
This is Nardlin.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, sorry, I joined a little late. I was on another call before this one, but I joined and I was like, oh, I think I'm Zoom bombing, somebody. Is it from China? I was at the point where we were doing the dance. So I was like, oh, I don't think it's the right conference I should be on. But I did rejoin. I go, no, there's Dr. Love. That's the right one. I miss joining these. It was a challenging year last year. And so I'm starting to get back in my regular routine and just listening to you. It's an inspiration, and I'm thinking, I've tried to be mentor to others, but I'm thinking to myself, I said, maybe I need a mentor now. Instead of me trying to always mentor somebody, maybe I need to find a mentor for myself. And so refocusing and just listening to you, that's what comes to mind. So thank you for the amount of information I did come on and listen to. I appreciate all of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Oh man, that must have been scary to come in and you see somebody jumping around and stuff. You're like, what is this? Yeah, and in psychology, we're required to do a whole year internship on being counseled by someone. And first I'm like, oh, I don't want to do all of that, but that is so meaningful. It used to be kind of like a bad thing because you wanted to have counseling. Guys, that is the most healthiest thing that you can do, is to have, it really is. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Well, Dr. Love?
Dr. Sweeney is joining at 7:28.
Uh-oh.
I'll give him a moment to join. That's I'm saying goodbye.
Dr. Sweeney, words of wisdom. Welcome to Judson. Can you hear me?
He's on mute.
Oh, he's on mute. That mute. Oh, well.
Unmute. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. I'm sorry I missed you. We went out to dinner.
You should have brought the dinner for us too. Oh, well, we're glad you're here.
Dr. Sweeney, so you will see Dr. Stein Merrill on Facebook and podcasts as well, and YouTube. So yes, we have multiple platforms. to get the word out. Yes. But thank you for joining us.
You just building your platform?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a God thing. It's a God thing.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to thank everyone for joining Friday Night Chats with Dr. Teri Stein Merrill. For all of your words of wisdom and looking at diversity from a global perspective. What an awesome presentation. So thank you so much for giving us multiple perspectives on things that we should consider and, maybe change the trajectory a bit, change it a bit, So I thank you so much for that and your words of wisdom. I also want to thank everyone that participated tonight. It was a fun night. It was an absolutely fun night. Dr. Stein Merrill, you left no corner unturned. Absolutely, you did not. You did not. So in celebration of Black History Month. Next week, I want to invite you to join us again as we continue our series in celebrating Black History Month as we ask Dr. Curtis Sartor to the chat room. So I'm so excited about a conversation with him. And we also have a surprise for you, Dr. Sartor. So I'm just really, really excited. So just come with an open mind. It will be amazing. I promise you it will be.
And can we say happy birthday to Dr. Karen Love?
Yes.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Dr. Love.
Karen Love.
Happy birthday
to
to
you.
you.
And
Wow.
many more. Yay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, and God bless you.
Thank you, Terry. God
Anything
bless
you
you.
need from
Great
any
job.
of us,
Great
just
job.
let us know, okay? All right.
All
God
right.
bless. Good
Thank
night.
you. Mama Da means I love you. Mama Da.
Mama Da.
Mama Da.